Hi, this is Tatiana Moroz, and you're listening to Journalistic Revolution.
I'm Robert Wasmund, and welcome back to the Journalistic Revolution. Sorry Matthew couldn't be with us here today. He was at the Mark Schmidter protest in downtown Orlando. If you guys don't know who Mark is, you can go to We Are Mark Schmidter at Facebook, and you can find out all the updates that you need there. I need to remind you that these people showed up in the rain at 5 o'clock in the afternoon to show support for Mark Schmidter. So without further ado, let me go ahead and get to the interview conducted by Matthew Dalton for the Mark Schmidter protest.
Alright, this is Matthew Dalton with the Journalistic Revolution. I'm down here at the Mark Schmidter protest. Just got a few questions for you guys. Who is Mark and why was he arrested?
Mark Schmidter is a liberty activist that became familiar with the Fully Informed Jury Association a couple years ago. Fell in love with the concept of jury nullification and has poured his heart and risked his freedom for it for a couple years now.
What he was arrested for was handing out pamphlets that inform jurors of their rights as jurors and encourage them to consider not only the facts of the case, but the law itself. Is the law just? Is the law moral? And he was just passing out pamphlets, and that upset the judge here, and he arrested him and sentenced him to 141 days behind bars.
Yeah, he's also, the judge did say that if he had been handing them out in this free speech zone, which are about 30-40 feet that way, or were, which were overturned by a higher court, that he wouldn't have arrested them.
What is illegal about informing jurors of their rights?
Nothing.
When he got arrested, it was because was he outside of the free speech zone, and was this after or during the Casey Anthony case?
It was before and during, and after.
Yeah, before, during, and after. Well, that would only involve a specific jury on a specific case or a specific juror. He never targeted any single. In regards to Casey Anthony, after we finished the point, there was that the jury for Casey Anthony had been chosen in Tampa weeks or months before, was sequestered here in Orlando, so they never were anywhere near Mark, and they never went through these doors where Mark hands them out. They went through the back. So there was never any interaction. Channel 13 had reported that he was inside the courthouse. We asked them to fix that. They said no.
Really? So
Mark and I, yeah.
Okay.
So
I did not know that.
If you ever find that on Google, it's not true.
There's already laws against tampering with juries, but Mark Schmidter wasn't arrested and convicted upon any laws. It was based purely upon the fact that Judge Perry had made a decree that you cannot inform jurors of their rights, you can't hold the sign, you can't do anything like that. So he didn't violate any law. It was purely contempt of court.
It's obviously nonsense, because if it was jury tampering, he could have arrested him, and the sheriffs would have arrested him for tampering with the jury, and he would have gone through a trial. He doesn't need any additional rules. He did this so that he can circumvent any any jury trial or anything like that may not see things his way.
What are they claiming was his crime?
Contempt of court.
And what action was it considered contempt?
Disobeyed the two orders.
Just
one was
stay within the free speech zone.
Pamphlets. One was don't hand out anything outside the free speech zone. Right.
Right.
How do you guys feel this reflects the overstepping of the power by the government?
This is just an absolute abomination of any semblance of justice. The entire United States government was built on a system of checks and balances that makes it so that one man cannot create a law, enforce the law, convict the person, find them guilty, and sentence them all by himself without any oversight or checks and balances whatsoever. That's what happened here, and it's absolute travesty to the so-called integrity of the American legal system.
And there are quotes from 3 Supreme Court justices directly saying in very few words, absolutely, the jury has the right to judge the law as well as the facts.
Now let me ask you a question. Now, Mark was found guilty of this law before it was found unconstitutional and overturned, correct?
Overturned by the court above Judge Perry. So the judge should have probably just said,
so why did exactly. Why did he still feel the need to
don't question my authority?
Don't question my authority. So do you believe that there's a conflict of interest with Judge Perry was also his appeal judge?
Judge, jury, and execution.
Judge, jury, and execution.
There's an enormous conflict of
Mark
interest.
requested jury.
That's why we have separations. That's why there's the judicial, executive, legislative. One branch to make the laws, another branch to enforce the laws, and another branch to oversee and give somebody a fair trial. In this case, Judge Perry acted as judge, as all three branches The people who arrested him, the Orange County sheriffs, worked for Judge Perry. So he was acted as the executive. He acted as a legislator because he solely wrote the rule, and then he acted in his courtroom as judge, jury, and executioner and prosecutor all at the same time. There's no balances here whatsoever.
Judge Perry is a real-life Judge Dredd. For real, he is. And when you deny someone the means to convey an idea, you deny them the right to convey an idea. And that's what Judge Perry's doing here. Because we can hand out feature flyers any place else, except at the courthouse where, yeah, there's going to be a higher number of potential or sitting jurors. And if we can't trust the jury to decide if the pamphlets, which are an act of free speech, an act of free expression, if those are true or false, how can we trust the jury to determine the facts of the case to be true or false?
So we're looking at basically an abuse of power. You think the judge was trying to make a point? Maybe to exert his power, maybe to prevent other people from exhibiting their free speech?
I think an abuse of power is putting it lightly. I mean, this is something this peaceful war veteran, or served in the service during Vietnam, this peaceful person, this person who spent his own time and his own money getting up early every morning just to inform his fellow citizens about his ideas, somebody to throw him in a cage for 6 months because he was handing out pieces of paper on a public sidewalk, that's something you'd see under Joseph Stalin. That you can't even say that's an abuse of power. That's beyond. That is tyranny. That is emperor status.
If jailing people for handing out pieces of paper with information you disagree on, if that's not an act of tyranny, I don't know what is.
Hey, check out facebook.com/wearemarkschmidter. It's the best resource to keep it up to date on what's going on.
Free Mark.
Free Mark.
Free Mark.
Stay tuned for the next episode where we go over Mark Schmidter's lawyer's response. Journalistic revolution. News you need to be involved in.